everyone, welcome to today's video. For today we are going to be doing this little tiny card that's absolutely adorable. It's going to be using the Happy Home stamp set and the Hearth and Home Big Shot dies, which I have been dying to use. Haha, no pun intended. Really, no pun intended. I love this little set. It's one of my favorite bundles in the Occasions catalog right now. Some of you may have the Hearth and Home dies because they were in the holiday catalog along with, there were a couple of stamp sets that went along with them. I wanted to get them for the longest time and then I never did because then we never ended up making Christmas cards. Anyways, long story short, I had to get it when it came back in the Occasions catalog. So I went for it, and it came in a bundle with the stamp set. So I've been wanting to make a video using this. I just haven't really come up with one that I really liked and wanted to do. So I wanted to go ahead and make this one for you guys because it's really, really cute and simple, but it's got that nice look to it that I think everybody kind of likes. So I wanted to go ahead and bring this one to you guys today. The one that I'm going to make is going to be a little different. I think I'm going to use a different sentiment and I'm going to use a different background color because the yellow just didn't sit well with me. So that is all that's changing. But let's go ahead and jump in. Oh, and before we jump into everything, I wanted to let you guys know I'm sorry again. I'm still sick. Still trying to get over this cold thing. I don't really know what it is. I am still trying to get better. I feel a little bit better, but I'm still trying to get over it. So I just wanted to let you guys know. I apologize again. Hopefully next time you guys hear from me, I won't sound so crazy. But let's go ahead and jump into what we're going to need to make this one for today. And let's start with our ink pads. So we're going to be using Basic Black. We are going to be using Blushing Bride, Pear Pizzazz, Soft Sky, and Melon Mambo. We are also going to be using the Tombow Mono Multi-Glue. Mine doesn't have a label on it anymore because I took it off because it gets kind of crazy. Like I said, we're going to be using the Happy Home stamp set and the Hearth and Home are these framelit dies? Yes, framelits. I don't ever remember the difference between framelits and thinlits. They're both dies. So we're going to be using our Big Shot along with these today. So we're going to use those two. Oops. Crazy avalanche. For our paper, we are going to be using a piece from this Recollections Fashionably Chic paper pad. So this is a 6x6 paper pad. You can get these at Michael's, I think is where I probably got mine. I've had this for a while, but it's really pretty because it has a bunch of different papers in it, and it comes in kind of different color sections. So like you have a few different designs in blue, you have a few different designs purple, green, blue, again, there's pink. This is kind of like a brown, yellow, pink. So it's a really nice paper stack to have because you can kind of use it for every occasion. You can find a piece of paper in here that works well, and that's where I kind of got this, that's kind of what I needed for this card. I didn't have any Stampin' Up! Paper that I really felt like worked really, really well with this. So I grabbed this because it's kind of what I had on hand. Set that off to the side. And then to get into the paper, so we're going to be using a tiny, tiny little piece of watercolor paper because we are going to be watercoloring. That's the other thing that I forgot. We're going to need our aqua brushes. I don't remember if I used both sizes or just one size. You can use one size, but you just need some aqua brushes, or if you wanted to, you could just use a watercolor brush. You can get a bunch of different brushes at your local craft store. So I like aqua brushes just because they make everything a little bit easier, but you could use just regular watercolor brushes with some water if that's what you wanted to do. Now for our paper, we're going to be using this little tiny piece of watercolor paper. This is Canson, what is it? 140 pound watercolor paper. So it's nice and thick. And it's cut at 2 1/4 by 2 3/4. So it's a little itsy bitsy tiny piece of paper. We are also going to be using just a scrap of Whisper White. This is what we're going to be cutting our window frame out of. So you just need a scrap of paper that is big enough for your framelit. we're going to be using this piece of paper out of that paper stack that I just showed you. Again, any piece of paper that you wanted to use with this would work perfect. This is just what I happen to have. And this is cut at 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Then we have our piece of basic black cardstock, which is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. Oops. And then we have our card base, which is Soft Sky, cut at our usual 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. So let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so to start off, we're going to start by doing our little watercolor piece, which is what is showing through behind the window. So we're taking this tree stamp from the, what is it, Happy Home? Where did it go? Yeah, from the stamp set. You guys know. I'm sorry, I'm out of it still. I just wish this darn cold thing would go away. I think it started off as like the flu, kind of, because I had a really crazy temperature 3 or 4 days ago, maybe, I think it was. Anyways, and then that broke, and then I felt fine for a couple days, and then it just kind of came back as like a head cold kind of thing. So I don't know what's going on. But anyways, we're going to take our basic black, and we're going to stamp this down on our piece of paper. Now the tree is pretty center in the stamp, on the stamp, so we're going to try and position it a little off to the left, because you really want to be able to see the tree through the window. So I'm going to try to take it and kind of center it, and then just slightly move it off to the left. If you don't get it perfect, it's not a big deal. It's really not going to change anything. It's not going to ruin anything. It's going to be just fine. Okay, so there is our little tree, and I wish I would have left a little bit more room for the sky, but again, it's one of those things that's not a huge deal. So now we're going to go ahead and start watercoloring, and I'm going to start with my Soft Sky. And as usual, I'm just going to squeeze down in the center of the ink pad to get some ink on the top of the ink pad. And I have to sneeze, guys. I'm sorry. I will be right back. Okay, I am sorry about that. I am back. Thought I was going to die, and I didn't want to sneeze on camera and scare everybody. Anyways. So we squeezed the top of our ink pad, so we have some of the ink right there. I'm going to use my aqua brush, and I'm just going to pick it up, and I'm going to start off by using quite a bit of water, because for the beginning I want a pretty much a wash of sky. So I'm going to take this, and you want to make sure that you get it all the way down where the trunk is, and all the way up. So I'm not being too neat if it... Oh, I'm getting some on my desk. If it goes into the tree, I'm not super concerned about it, because we're going to be coloring over the tree anyways, and that color, that blue, is just going to get pushed to the back. So to start off, like I said, I just want to give it a nice wash of a blue color. Now to add a little bit more interest, I want to give the sky a little bit of shading or some streaks in the sky so that it really looks nice, and it gives it some dimension. So I'm going to take my same brush. I just squeezed it to get a little bit more ink on the pad, and I'm just very lightly going to run the tip of my brush through the ink a couple of times, and that's going to pick up a lot of concentrated ink on the tip of the brush. So now when I go and I just lightly go over a couple of the areas, you see I get some darker spots because I get some of those streaky bits in the sky, and that's basically what I want. I just want to go over, and like I said, we're just adding a little bit of dimension just so that you have those high and low parts, those lights and darks, so that it's not just a flat wash. And this is really what's going to give your card more of a professional look and a more artistic look, because you have some dimension. You don't have just a flat wash of color. And if you get some that you feel are too defined, just pump some more water into your brush and then go over it and kind of blend it out, and that'll help. But I like the look of mine. So that's all we're going to be using Soft Sky for. We're done with that, and let me grab a baby wipe, because I forgot to grab it, so that I can wipe off my brush tip with. And I think I'm actually going to use the smaller brush for the rest. I forgot I was using the larger one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is find my Pear Pizzazz, And again, we're actually going to be doing pretty much the same thing that we did with the sky. It's literally the same technique. We're going to first start off by doing a nice wash on the bottom with lots of water to really get the ink moving around and to get a nice wash of color. And since we offset our stamp just slightly, there's going to be this little piece here that doesn't have any black. If you wanted to, you could take something like a Copic multiliner like I have here and just extend it out just like that. You don't have to do that. You honestly could leave it, and I guarantee you nobody's going to tell the difference. But if you wanted to make it look more seamless and like we didn't kind of offset the stamp at all, you can definitely do that on either side. Okay, so now we have our nice wash of green, and again I'm going to just take the tip of the pen and pick up that concentrated color. And honestly, what I'm pretty much doing is I'm just barely touching the paper with the tip of the pen, and just kind of letting the weight of the pen do most of the work for me. And there's that. If you wanted to, you could also get the ink the same way. You could do a couple little patches of ink or patches of grass like this. Like maybe there's a couple weeds there that somebody forgot to go and pull up. So there's a couple patches of grass. You could also, where the little patches of grass are around the tree and around these flowers right here, you could do that if you wanted to. But again, that just picking up that concentrated color on the tip of the brush just gives it a little bit more depth and dimension. And that's the look that I like. That's the look that I'm going for when I watercolor. So I'm trying to find a good spot to put my baby wipes so it's not in my way. Okay, so we're done with Pear Pizzazz. Now we're going to go in with Blushing Bride and do practically the same thing. I am actually going to use my larger brush for Blushing Bride just because I think it's easier. With Blushing Bride, so for the tray we're going to use Blushing Bride like we're using now, but we're also going to use Melon Mambo. Melon Mambo is going to give us some darker bits. Blushing Bride is really going to put the base down for us. The reason that it's hard to get kind of the definition like we did with the sky and the grass is because we're coloring on top of a busier image. It's a lot harder to use this soft pink color to get that depth and dimension, those light spots and those dark spots. It's a lot harder to get that with this color on the tree because you already have so much darkness going on. It just kind of fades into the background. You don't get as much depth in the dimension as you want. One thing that I would say is don't be super concerned about filling all of the little spots, and that's going to work to your advantage. You can see here there are a couple of spots that I didn't hit much with the ink, and I did that on purpose. Those are going to be my lighter spots. That was completely intentional, and even if it wasn't intentional, you can pretend like it was, because we want some of those lighter spots. That's how you're going to get those, is by intentionally not putting ink there. So now we're just going to take Melon Mambo, and you can tell I use this one to watercolor a lot. I'm going to go in with my smaller brush again, and just with the tip. Now you have to be careful with this color because it is so bright and vibrant. You can very easily turn this soft, more subtle image into a crazy bright just with this tree. So what I like to do is really water this down and just go in and do some swirling motions. And that'll give you some darker spots and some spots that have different color on them. And so like that, I think that's a little too vibrant for me. So all I'm going to do is soak up a lot of water in that area and really move that pigment around. And it works. Just like that. So we don't need a lot of the Melon Mambo. All we're doing is just adding in that second color to kind of give it some more interest. Like I said, that's really what we're what we're going for with these images. Okay, and so now our little piece is done. So I'm going to set this off to the side to keep drying. Then we'll come back to him when we start assembling our card. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually cut out our image. So let me grab my Big Shot. Ooh, and I have stuff rolling all over the place. Okay, so we're going to grab our Big Shot. And we're going to grab this little piece of Whisper White. Ooh, stuff's going to start rolling all over the place over here. We are going to take our die, and we're using the window. Now, I don't have a magnetic base plate. I just have the base plates that come with the Big Shot when you purchase it. They worked perfectly fine for me. It works for me. I haven't had any problems with it. It does me what I need it to do. It does for me what I need it to do. That's what I was trying to say. If you were concerned, of course, I think the magnetic plate is a good thing to have eventually. It's not something that I need right now because I don't have a ton of super intricate dies. All of the dies that I've been buying are pretty basic. So like this one, if it moved a little bit, it wouldn't be the end of the world because I have a piece of paper that's got a little give to it. I'm not trying to cut out an exact thing. And you can always use washi tape too. I do that if I have something that I want to be pretty precise with. Okay, so I'm going to crank it through. So there's once, and then I'm going to crank it back again. Take our little piece, set that off to the side. I'm going to move my Big Shot out of the way. Make sure that my camera is still good. Okay. For some reason, because I move my Big Shot around on my desk, every time I do that, it ends up knocking the camera all wonky and everything just goes awry. So, maybe I should have run this through one more time. I'm going to run this through one more time off to the side where you guys can't see. Once. And twice. There we go. That should be good. Perfect. There were just this little edge right here hadn't cut all the way through. So these little squares, you can keep them. I toss them. I can't keep scraps around anymore. I just can't. So now what I'm doing is just taking a weeding tool that I have, and I'm poking out the top of all of the little edges on the die. If you had the brush, I don't even remember what it's called, the die brush, that could help. This one is pretty simple and basic though, so just popping out, there's 6 little holes, popping those out, and then just being gentle when you pull the die out to make sure that you don't rip this part. It's pretty simple after that. Okay, so I'm going to put all of that stuff off to the side. And now what we're going to do is grab our watercolor piece, and it's still a little wet, but it's not that bad. And I'm going to take this and see what happens because we positioned the tree a little off to the left. We're not hiding the tree behind our window, which is really what I wanted. So what I'm going to do is take just a little bit of regular old Scotch tape, and I'm going to put a couple of pieces on the top and the bottom of our little piece. And then I'm going to line up our window where we want it and just press down. Now I do know that my Scotch tape is going off the edge, so I'm going to just take a little bit. I'm going to take my scissors and trim this. Trim off the excess. Oh, now I have tape stuck to my finger. Anyways, okay, so I'm going to do this. And you know what I forgot to do? I was going to put a little bit of the Tombow Mono liquid glue right on the X, but I forgot to do that. So you can do that if you want to. You don't have to. It just gives it a little bit more secure. It secures down the window to the piece a little bit more. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. So now what I'm going to do, because we have our window where we want it, I'm going to take some more tape, and I flipped the piece over and just, I'm going to tape all 4 edges down. Just like this. So that it lays nice and flat. Okay, so now all we really need to do is, we're almost done. We pretty much need to assemble our card now. So let me grab everything. Okay, so to start off, we're going to take just some regular old adhesive. I have a hair stuck to it. I am a mess. I am a mess today. Yes, I am. Oh, I'm losing it, I tell ya. So we're going to take our piece of paper. The one thing that I wanted to know with that recollection stack is it is just kind of flimsy paper. It's pretty much got the consistency of like copy paper. So that's something to be mindful of if you just can't stand that. We are putting it on a piece of basic black, which is fairly thick. So it's not going to matter a ton. It's going to have the stability. It's going to be there. It's not like it's going to fall apart. But that is one thing to just kind of note. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to assemble everything first, and then I'm going to do our sentiment. The reason that I want to do that is because I want to do the sentiment after the window is already attached, but I don't want to attach the window first because I want to, because I'm going to let me start over. Because I'm going to attach the window with dimensionals, I want everything to be assembled first so that it's not as hard to attach with something that is attached dimensionally. I mentioned that in a video. I can't remember which one it was. I mentioned it not that long ago that I like to put everything together before I use dimensionals, just because it's a little bit easier. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. We can attach our window as long as I can find some dimensionals. And I'm just going to put these all over because this is a watercolor piece. I am going to use a few more dimensionals than I normally would. It's a watercolor piece. It's pretty thick watercolor paper, so I'm not super duper concerned about it, but I don't want it to sag. If you had, I want to go and get some foam tape. I see a lot of people using like 3M foam tape. I think that would work really well with this piece because it is just a flat piece, and you could put a couple strips of foam tape on the back of it, and I think you'd be good to go. Toss all those little guys in the trash. And now I'm going to, so I'm going to center it left and right, but I'm going to put it more towards the top of the card just so we have some room to do our sentiment. Just like that. And then I'm going to take our sentiment and grab our basic black. I'm using the Enjoy sentiment. On the sample card I used, what did I use? I used the Missing You. But I figured I'd switch it up. Make sure you're stamping the right way. I just thought about that. And go ahead and just center this on the bottom. Stamp it down, and there you go. So move all of this stuff out of the way. And there is our pretty little card. I love this card. I do have to say I like it better with the pink instead of the yellow. I think the colors just go better together. It looks like a more cohesive piece. I do definitely like it. I love the yellow. I think the yellow works, but I think because we did a pink tree, it looks a little bit better on a pink background. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this card. I apologize again for sneezing and for being super sickly. Hopefully I'm better by the next video. I don't really know though. I could be sick for the next 2 weeks for all I know. I hope not. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's card, and I will see you next time. Bye!